Joining us live from London as political analyst Tom Gross will be discussing the UK elections. Good to see you, Tom.
Hello, good to see you too.
Thank you. Now, with just 2 days to go until Britain chooses its next government, most of the polls are pointing to a massive win for Labour. Do you think that victory is a done deal for Keir Starmer and his party?
Well, it seems so. We've had 18 years of Conservative government in Britain. We've had 5 consecutive prime ministers from the same party, which I don't know of any other country, any other democracy that had 5 prime ministers from the same party, the right-wing Conservatives. You had David Cameron, you had Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, and now Rishi Sunak. So people are tired. They have, not handled the economy very well. And there are indications that, as you said, Labour will win by an absolute landslide. And that landslide is distorted by the British system, which is called first past the post. And the way it works is that even though Labour might get around 40% of the vote, they may get 2/3 of the seats in the 650-seat House of Commons. So certainly, although one can never be sure, the polls indicate a sweeping victory for Keir Starmer's Labour Party, very different than the last election in 2019, when the previous leader, Jeremy Corbyn, for the Labour Party, lost decisively to the Conservatives' then leader, Boris Johnson.
Now, what do you think are the most important issues for voters?
Well, probably like in many countries, the economy is not doing very well. It's been damaged by several things. In no particular order, Britain has not adjusted to leaving the European Union. It lost its biggest trading partners in Europe, and it has not yet signed any new trade deals with major powers like the United States. In fact, even though the Conservatives promised that there would be a quick trade deal with the US, they haven't even started negotiations, and that it can take up to 8 years to conclude a trade deal. So you don't need trade deals to replace the lost deals with Europe. And then there's also been a lot of infighting in this term of Parliament. They've switched prime ministers twice. Boris Johnson was voted in. Then they had Liz Truss, only lasted a few weeks, and now they have Rishi Sunak. So the Conservatives are perceived to have spent more time attacking each other than governing the country. You've got other economic hardships resulting from the COVID lockdown, resulting possibly from the war in Ukraine, and general mismanagement. So people are sick and tired, and previous Conservative voters, many of them are going to vote for Labour. Although I should mention there's a new party on the right called Reform, which is led by Nigel Farage, who previously headed the Brexit Party, and that party is going to split the right-wing vote. So, in other words, Labour will do even better because the Conservative right-wing vote is split down the middle between the governing Conservatives and the right-wing Reform Party.
What major policy shifts can we expect to see if Labour wins the elections?
Well, I think initially, they've been a bit quiet, a bit reticent on what their new policies will be, because they don't want to lose any voters in advance of the election. They don't want to put anybody off. Previous leader, Jeremy Corbyn, it was a much more socialistic party. Keir Starmer, the new leader, has shifted the party to the centre, so it's more like a centrist or social democrat party, and they don't want to give the impression that many of the supporters of Corbyn, more to the left, are still there, and they're going to maybe push much more left-wing socialist domestic and foreign policy. So they've been a little bit quiet on what their policies will be, other than just, get a grip on the economy and the National Health Service and, manage the country better. But in actuality, when they enter Downing Street, as is likely already on Friday or Saturday this week, they may actually institute far more left-wing policies than they are letting on before the election.
Now, how has public sentiment regarding political parties in the UK been influenced by their stances on Gaza amid the upcoming elections?
Well, Labour have been very split on the issue. Keir Starmer has been, relatively speaking, supportive of Israel. He's been against a ceasefire in Gaza. But many, probably the majority of his own party activists, are much more, let's say, pro-Palestinian than the party leadership. So he again has pretty much had the same kind of outlook as the Conservative government. But I think that there will be a lot of pressure on him from within his own party to do things like ban or curtail British arms sales to Israel, possibly even to follow Ireland and Spain and Norway into recognizing a Palestinian state. I don't think Starmer wants to do that, if only because he's going to a NATO summit, if he's the new Prime Minister, already a few days into the job, and he'll want to coordinate British policy with policy of the United States and France and Germany. But there will be pressure on him from his own party to be more pro-Palestinian than the outgoing government. And in fact, many activists from the left, also from among some of the Muslim communities in Britain, have been quite angry with him for not being more overtly pro-Palestinian since the Israel-Gaza war started in last October.
Now, lastly, let's discuss the French elections. Following the first round of voting, initial projections suggest that France is likely headed for a hung parliament. What is your analysis of this development?
Well, I personally think it's dangerous. What we see in Europe, and in fact, I should mention that Britain is very much against the trend here, is what we see in Europe are right-wing, anti-immigrant parties coming to the fore, not just in France, but today, in fact, there's a new government being sworn in the Netherlands, and that government's largest party, it's a coalition, but the largest party will be Geert Wilders, who comes from the hard right anti-migrant wing of Dutch politics, and that he will enter government for the first time. We also have the AfD, the far right in Germany, doing better than expected and coming second in the European elections in June. So we also have, as you just said, in France last Sunday on the first round of parliamentary elections, the largest party being the right-wing National Rally, previously National Front. They say they have so-called cleaned up their act, rid themselves of their more anti-Semitic or racist elements, but it remains to be seen. The party grew out of a very racist and anti-Semitic hard-right party founded by Le Pen's father, who was a kind of Holocaust distortionist. And it is a dangerous situation where the hard-right may enter French government for the first time since World War II. President Macron, who fared very badly in the first round of parliamentary elections, the second round is this coming Sunday, he has essentially called on people to possibly vote for the hard left, which in my view is not very much better than the hard right. I think its streams are bad in general for political stability. And what you have in France is the far left and far right together getting more than 50% of the vote. And this doesn't bode well either for political stability in France and in Europe as a whole, or even domestically within France, there could even be violence between the far right and far left. So I think it's a very pivotal moment in French politics, and not a very good one either for France or Europe or for liberal democracy itself.
Tom Gross, thank you for joining NewsHour, and thank you for your analysis.
Thank you.